and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the fact that Satan is mean. Oh my gosh, I hope I can make any sense of my thoughts today because I know that it's gonna be super abstract, but I'll do my best. So something that I've been thinking about with the panic attacks and feeling like God has abandoned me to this spirit of fear and does not answer my prayers in the moment the way that I thought that he would, has been that Satan hates me. And I feel like I've felt that more strongly with this than with anything else, just because it feels so like targeted against my faith, against my sanity, against my hope. And it's weird that like I know Satan is our enemy and does not care about us and wants to hurt us and wants to destroy what God has done and is doing, and yet at the same time some small unreasonable part of me kind of expected him to play fair, I guess. And it's really interesting being like, okay, that's a really silly expectation. Like, why would I expect that he would have any mercy on me? He hits us when we're down. He does everything in his power to use circumstances to reinforce the lie that he's already trying to tell us. And he will take the opportunities to strike the deepest and the hardest and leave us like reeling from the attack. Like, why would I expect him to have any mercy or any kindness towards me, any sense of fairness? Sorry about the noise, neighbors. But yeah, like, he does not at all care about me. He does not at all care about me understanding the truth or continuing to trust God. He wants to do absolutely the worst to me. He absolutely wants to break down that faith. Like, he wants to attack me as often and as relentlessly and as mercilessly as possible. He has no sense of like, I'm gonna give you a break now. It's like, no. He wants to break us down. I don't know, I just never really felt that as much before as I have with these panic attacks. But then that also just leads me to thinking like, okay, if he hates me so much, trying to reinforce so much these lies that he's telling me, if I know that they're lies, then why would I listen? Because first of all, he hates me. So anything that he has to say, I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, why do you want so badly for me to believe that? You do not have any of my best interests at heart. Even when it seems like that friendly little voice that's like, see, God doesn't love you. He's not taking care of you. He's not there for you. I understand. I get it. I know the truth. But I'm like, okay, well, because of my circumstances, I want to agree with that. I'm like, yes, that logically, that makes sense. That's what I'm seeing and experiencing. Yes, that voice, what they're saying makes sense. Like, why would I trust that? Like, I know that it's diametrically opposed to the things that God says in the Bible that I, because I am a Christian, have chosen to believe are true, and I'm going to live my life out of them and in light of them. And so if this voice is saying things opposite, and I know that that voice is Satan, why would I be listening? Because he hates me. Like, that's his deception of like, oh, I understand you. Like, oh, this is clearly the conclusion that you should draw. I get it. And I'm like, okay, well, no. Yeah, he hates me so much. Why should I trust anything that he says? And then second of all, he hates me so much and is so just brutally mean to me. Why would I listen to him? Like, there's not much that I can do against Satan, but like the smallest thing that I can do to like get him back for how evil he is to not listen to him, to push him away, to reject him, to be like, absolutely not, you do not gain any ground here. I will not listen to you. And it's just like all of the things that feel so hard and overwhelming and so like, oh man, that's the last straw, like that's the death blow, like I can't go any further. It's all from Satan. Like, I can't blame God for any of that. Like, it's Satan's cruelty and hatred that brings me to those places. And obviously he's trying to break me down those lies, but just, I guess, recognizing that he is so purely evil and so fully against us and absolutely hates me and will do anything that he can to destroy me and destroy my faith in God. Give me a place to put my anger. It helps me be angry about this in the right way, not just be like, lie down and take the punches and be like, yes, God has abandoned me and he doesn't love me anymore. To be like, no, I have a reason to fight. I have an enemy and I have the will and the strength to fight against him. And it just makes me like righteously angry that he would treat me this way, instead of being like, God, how could you treat me this way? How could you let these things happen to me? Like, Satan is to blame. And I believe that God lets these things happen to strengthen my faith, that he won't let anything actually happen to me that's beyond what I can bear. But just because I believe that he's fully sovereign over it doesn't mean that I don't think that Satan is being a bully and being a jerk. And then kind of going along with like, why would I listen to him? Because he's so mean. I was just thinking about like the perspective that you have on life. Like, you have to have a lens through which you see the world. And because I'm a Christian, I've chosen this lens of God loves me and God is good and he is good to me and he has an ultimate plan that's better than what I can imagine for myself, and that ultimately everything is going to be okay. Every injustice will be made right and every sorrow will be completely swept away with joy, pure indestructible joy. So that's the lens that I've chosen, and I feel like Satan's whole thing is trying to make my circumstances look like that lens is wrong, like offering me a new lens through which to see the world of like, God is not good to you, God does not love you, God is not all powerful, God is not going to make everything all right in the end, it's not all going to be worth it. And so it's weird trying to hold on to that perspective when over and over it feels like in my circumstances these things that God has said about himself are proving to be untrue. And yet what else can I do? Satan is like, see, this happened, that means that God doesn't love you, and see, I'm gonna make it happen again, and like, oh, see, and like, oh, see it again, and God didn't do anything differently, like, don't you believe me now? God doesn't love you, God doesn't care, God doesn't see you, God isn't stronger than me. And yet, like, I have to believe that God is love. I have to believe in the perspective of the Bible and what it says about God and who he has said that he is, and who also I've experienced him in the past to be, or else I have no hope. And so I'm like, even if what Satan was saying is true, I would rather live my life under the expectation that God is love, under the expectation that someday, if I just hold on long enough, I'm going to understand that it's going to be worth it, than the hopelessness of like, yeah, there's nothing. No one loves you. No one ultimately cares about you. There's nothing to protect you, nothing to live for, nothing better than just life on earth and being harassed by Satan. Because I need God. I need his love for me to be real and true and faithful and to overcome. And so even when logically for my circumstances it looks like God has lied, it looks like he has not done what he promised that he would do, has not been who he promised he would be, I still have to hold on to that lens of he loves me and just believe that I am not interpreting my circumstances correctly. And of course, I believe that God is being truest, deepest, perfect love to me all of the time. And so if I can't see it as love, in fact, like Satan is the father of lies, I can expect him to be very good at lies and deception, even to the point where he could take the truth of God being perfect love to me in those moments and twist my perception of it and tell me a story about my experience of it that makes it look exactly opposite to what's really going on, to then be like, see, this proves that God does not love you, that God is not here for you, that he's not going to take care of you. When really, I have to believe that the truth is that God was loving me in those moments, was taking care of me, was protecting me, and I just don't understand the full story, or I don't have the correct interpretation of my circumstances. And I just have to hold on and wait until I can understand, until God gives me that peace about it and shows me like, yes, I was right beside you the entire time. I never let you go. I never stopped being faithful to you. Because he doesn't. And I have to believe that. And I just think it's so odd and like kind of suspicious that when something goes wrong, the very first thing that we doubt is God, not our own perception and interpretation of what happened. Like we suddenly trust our own one-time human experience and interpretation of that experience rather than the faithfulness that God has proven to us over the course of our lives, and also what he has said is true about him. I love that automatically the very first thing I do is like call God's character into question. I'm like, see, this one little event proves that who you said you are is not true. Sorry, God. When really I should doubt my initial interpretation of the circumstances, because I am human, I am fallible, I can only see what's going on in this physical realm. I can't see the spiritual realities all around me, and I don't have the full picture that God does, seeing from the beginning to the end the completion of this thing. I just have my little experience in the moment. Yeah, I love that that's my first instinct of like, yes, I'm gonna go with this lie that brings me absolutely no hope, that seems to line up with my human experience of my circumstances, rather than a hope that can transcend circumstances and my physical perception, something that lasts and gives me hope for all of eternity. Like, I don't know why I would take the word of an enemy who absolutely hates me when those words, the only good thing about them is that they seem to line up with my interpretation of my experience. There's no hope, there's no life there. There's absolutely nothing good about what he's saying to me. And so why would I follow those lies rather than continuing to hope in God and his character? Because I believe, I just don't know the end yet. Jewish people will say like, if the story isn't good, the story isn't over. God's not done with it yet if it's not good. I want to fully believe and hold on to that and have hope in that, because I want to believe that God is who he says that he is. And I want to continue to serve the God who has proved himself faithful, who has proved himself to be loving. And just because I'm not seeming to experience that in this moment does not mean that it's not true. I would rather keep the perspective, the lens that gives me hope and a future, rather than letting one instance of it seeming like God is not there make me discard my entire faith. All of these experiences that I've had in the past of God coming through for me and being who he promised that he would be. Instead, I want to be willing to wait until I can see it, to like give God a fair chance, to see how the story plays out and not just abandon everything because of this one little experience. No matter how hard and how horrible that is, and Satan's going to do everything that he can to make sure that that experience feels like the most important thing in the world and in my entire history. But yeah, he hates me. I don't trust him. I don't want to accept his lies. I want to choose faith. Those are all the crazy, all over the place thoughts that have been swirling themselves together inside of my brain recently, so hopefully that made some sense. Thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen.